Hi, everyone. It is not Monday. This is not Ask Amy. It's Wednesday. And from now on, every Wednesday for a while now, I'm going to be doing something new in addition to Ask Amy. And I'm calling them Change Coach Conversations. And these are going to be short conversations that I have for those of you who are interested in sharing this new paradigm or working from this understanding that I share. So we will talk about all kinds of things in terms of having impact, the most impact you can have with your clients, the art and science of sharing this, helping people break habits and find freedom from depression and anxiety through this understanding, and also things around making a living at it, because we can't afford to do this for free, right? So I want you to see how possible, how way more than possible, how I don't want to say easy, but how likely it is, like how just seeing a few things around how to get out there and share this. And again, it's tied to impact, having so much impact with your clients. Anyone can make a living doing this. And again, we need to do that, right? So I think that's really important to explore. So in these Change Coach conversations every Wednesday for a while, we'll look at those topics. And there is a long list of topics that I've already put together that I'm going to put in the comments here, that have just come from my 13 years of coaching, my several years of training coaches and mentoring coaches, things that we're all up against, that we all question, that we all have issues with at times. And again, those little things that have the most impact for our clients. So in Change Coach conversation number one, drum roll, this is the big number one, we're going to talk about the one thing that can help any client with any issue. And I have kind of the parenthesis title for this one is No More Whack-A-Mole, No More Habit Swapping. So the way my coaching used to go back in 2006 and 7 when I was first starting off, is that I would talk with people roughly weekly. I would ask them what was most wrong in their life, because that's kind of how I was trained to start off the conversation. Like, what's your biggest problem? What's your complaint right now? So we would start off on that nice note of their biggest complaint and what's wrong. And I would try to help them see that what they're suffering, first of all, was created from their thinking. And I would try to help them have some new thinking, and do that primarily by helping them see through the thinking that they had, showing them it wasn't objectively true, all that good stuff, right? So we'd really kind of hone in on what was creating their suffering, which makes such sense. And by the end of the call, they were expected to hopefully feel better, maybe start seeing some things, and for sure, there should be some movement in that issue for them. And often there was. So it worked fairly well. A lot of times, there was some movement. Like we could talk about it for an hour or 90 minutes or sometimes 2 hours. And yeah, like their beef with their husband or their boss or their worries about this or that, we'd look at the thoughts and they would start to see that issue differently. Now, what I saw happening over and over again is that they'd had that issue squared away within a few sessions, maybe it would come back, but they'd had some insights. They had seen it differently enough that it wasn't the same for them. But inevitably, another issue would pop up in its place, and that's the whack-a-mole, right? Now, when we're talking about habits or addictions or issues like that, exact same thing. Somebody could see, maybe not in a session or two, but maybe over a few months, they'd really start to see some traction in their binge eating or whatever their habit happens to be. And because we had really looked at the specific thinking and the content around that, and we challenged some of those beliefs, and they saw that they couldn't trust it all. So that thing would fall away, but then a new habit would crop up and take its place. And this is so disheartening as a coach, because the thing is, as the coach, you see the bigger picture. So if you're a coach, I don't care if you've been doing this for decades or if you're brand new at it, when you sit and talk with a person, no question, you see the bigger picture in their life more than they do. Now, I'm not saying you know more about their life than they do. That's not what I mean. You see the bigger picture. You see how things are connected. And for sure you see when your client comes and says, my boss doesn't respect me. And then you work through that and you're like, oh, boss is okay. And a week later says, my husband doesn't respect me. Ding, 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 like you're onto that, right? So you see these patterns. But the thing is, as clear as it can be for us sometimes, they don't see this. Now, I don't mean to not give them credit. Obviously, sometimes they do, but it is so different when it's you. Totally different when it's you and the thing you're dealing with that by definition, because you're dealing with it, by definition, it looks real. It looks personal. It looks like they did it to you, whoever they are, like life is unfair. That is just the way it looks, or else it wouldn't even be a problem for you. So we know already, we're starting with a person with a specific issue that they have a ton of thinking about that looks absolutely real, that doesn't look like thinking to them. And so when we sort through some of that with them, if that's what you're doing, sure, they're going to feel some relief there. But again, how they view their thinking, how they view their experience, like they don't see that piece in the way I was doing it before when I first started coaching, right? So the whack-a-mole problem, the habit swapping problem drove me nuts, drove all my coaching friends nuts as well, all my colleagues at that time. But we didn't know what to do. It just kind of looked like, well, that's just the way it goes. And when I started seeing more about this understanding that I share now, this new paradigm, and helping people from this place, totally different. So the one thing that we can share with literally any person on earth, no matter what they are up against, is an understanding of where their experience is coming from. And I don't mean where their complaints about their husband are coming from. Or, I mean, I do, but it's not about the husband and the complaints, right? I don't mean like, oh, let's look at your worry and see, oh, everybody has that under the viaduct worry. Don't worry about that one. That's universal. Everybody has it. That's not that helpful. It might help them feel better in a moment. It might make the conversation, might make them get off the phone with you or walk away from your meeting feeling a little more relieved. Oh, everyone thinks this. I guess that's not true. But it doesn't give them a deep understanding and a foundation for where all this experience stuff is coming from. It doesn't really show them how we work. And I can tell you on the flip side of that, when we see, I'll say it this more positive way, when we see how we work, when we understand the blueprint, when we just have a sense of that, our minds get quiet and problems look different. And we don't need to sift through all the details and change thoughts to make that happen. It's just the effect of understanding how life works. So things look far less personal. They don't really look personal unless they do, but then you see it, right? Confusion is different. Like I get confused all the time, but I know when I'm confused, I'm caught up in a bunch of conflicting thinking. And I don't try to sift through the confusion, at least not as much as I used to, right? Like, so they don't get so confused. They're not full of why. Why am I thinking this? And why is this happening? And what, those questions fall away. So much changes about the way the conversation's going and about the impact we can have with them when they have a feel for how they work as human beings. And so it's not only a gigantic win for the client, huge win. We're showing them something that's deeper, that applies to anything in their life. It's like giving them a shot of medicine. It goes where it needs to go, right? So we give them something that just applies generally. It's deep, it's efficient, it's beautiful and much nicer to talk about and easier to talk about than their details with their specific problem. And for us, the coach, it has all of those benefits plus a gazillion. So we also want, obviously, what has the most impact for them, what's the most efficient for them, what's the easiest and simplest for them. And the simple piece is really special and really important, because when we see that we know something, like this is what happened for me when I started to see, holy crap, like I see something that can literally help every single, like it could help anyone with anything. And it was having more impact than anything I was doing before. My confidence went through the roof. My conviction when I was sharing this, still through the roof, because I've seen the impact of it. And it is simple. I used to sit around thinking, oh my gosh, this new client of mine wants to talk about relationships. I don't know that much about relationships. Like I'm better in this area, or, like I wasn't sure if I could help anyone with anything. And the thing is, today, I still don't know in a given moment with a given person what they're going to hear. Obviously, we never know that for sure. but I do know, I have 100% confidence that you could give me any person with any issue, anything they're up against, and I have something to point them toward and explore with them that is more likely to help them than anything I've seen in my entire life. And that's awesome. Like that means, it means a lot of things, but one, it means I sleep very well at night. It means I love what I do because the impact is obvious, and simple doesn't feel like the right word, but it's like there's a there, there's something solid there to point to. It's like, especially out in business, everyone's looking for the system, right? What's the system? Like, this isn't a system, but it kind of is. It has that impact, right? It's like, oh, I know, this is my grounding. I know where to go. I know where to point people. So that's all amazing. But again, it's that confidence. Like I just have, it's not an ego thing. It's not a personal thing, but I have 100% confidence in anyone I talk with. They may or may not hear what I'm pointing them toward in that moment, and that's okay. That doesn't bother me. But I know it's the place to point them that has the most leverage and the most potential impact when they can hear it. And that's incredible. And it has done incredible things for my business because I do things like this without worrying about it, without overthinking it. Come on Facebook Live, talk about things. Like, people say that, again, this is about me personally for a second, but it's like people say that to me all the time. Like, whoa, you're everywhere talking about stuff. And it's because of what I'm saying right now. It's because I have 100% belief. I mean, I see it literally every day. I see the impact of this every single day with people. Of course I'm everywhere. Like, you have to hold me back from being everywhere. You'd have to stop me from doing this, right? So I want that for all of you coaches out there, because I know so many of you are so good at what you do. You have the right skills. You've seen something that could be incredibly helpful. But it's like to really see, wow, this is that big. It's like this understanding takes us all out of our details, including you, the coach, takes you out of your thinking. It helps the client set all their details aside, and we're looking at what's true and what's always been there and always been working. And it's amazing. So that's it. That's coaching conversation number 1. Whew, got number 1 under my belt. So next week in Change Coach conversation number 2, I want to talk about the question of, can I really make a living at this? Because that's the second kind of biggest question, maybe the first, that people ask, and I see people caught up about and wondering about. So let's go there and look at it. And yeah, I'll say, I won't say yes or no. You have to tune in next Wednesday to see. Again, I'm going to put some of the topics that I've come up with for these Change Coach conversations in the comments below, so you can see if they look interesting, and if they do, come back here on Wednesdays and check them out. And if you are a coach and you want to become a certified change coach, I do have a new training that's starting in January that I will put the link there as well, and you can check that out if you're interested. So thank you so much for listening. I'm excited. This is fun. So I'll be back here next Wednesday with another conversation. Have a great week.